How we doing, all my Dukes and Duchesses? I recently made a series of posts on Threads about my experience in early 2016 being punked to oblivion, as I might say, on the Carbonaro Effect with Michael Carbonaro. Yeah, this series of posts on Threads did pretty well, and I just thought I would share this in a video to you all about when I was unwittingly and unknowingly being filmed on an episode of the Carbonaro Effect. Early 2016, I'm in college. It's my senior year, but I know I'm going to do a second senior year, and I got to get a job, another job. I've been already through a string of jobs at this point, one of them being I worked at a consignment shop in the South Loop where I would catalog inventory and post on various websites to get sales. And a lot of it was, high-end vintage and antique furniture, right? And a lot of antique collectibles, that sort of thing. So I interviewed at this temp agency in early 2016, looking for another job. And with my experience, they were like, oh, this is perfect. We're going to go send you out to this shift at Broadway Antiques up off the Berwyn Red Line in Uptown. And I'm like, oh, okay, perfect. Yeah, a year and a half ago, that summer, I worked a lot in antiques, and so I know all about how to catalog and inventory and, make sales online, various platforms for, an antique shop like that. And Broadway Antiques is huge, by the way. So anyways, I go out to this shift, and immediately when I get in, there's this, kind of short, very bubbly, jovial, flamboyant man who's just like super excited to see me. He's like, oh my God, we're so happy you're here. I'm like, yeah, thank you. And, I see this old couple, and they're behind the cash register, so I assume that the old couple are the owners, and this is like their manager. So I'm like, all right, I'm ready to start. And they bring me to this back room, or they sit me down, and they have me take certain stickers to these various sets of vintage shades so that the vintage shades would be correctly priced. And I was like, okay, yeah, this is quite a normal task, for working in antiques and whatnot. A few minutes of me doing that, maybe about 15 minutes of me doing this task, the bubbly, flamboyant man brings in another man about my height who's clearly in construction, large man, right? Definitely about 6'5" or maybe 6'6", probably my height. And he sits down, and we're both looking at each other like, this is interesting, but I guess, we needed the work, and we both needed extra income, and so here we are, and we're both putting stickers on these vintage shades, right? Flamboyant man comes back down, and he says, oh, we need you upstairs to catalog the fine china. And there's a lot of really cool, dining ware up there that needs to be, properly put into the inventory. I'm like, great, that, right up my alley. Let's go up and do that. So they have me put on an apron, which wasn't unusual. I've put on aprons before at Urban Remix consignments that used to be in the South Loop, like off 14th and Michigan. But anyways, we're in there, and so the flamboyant man takes me upstairs. I have an apron on, and immediately he introduces me to this man with a leather jacket, jet black hair, and definitely like a Hollywood smile, right? Very white set of perfect straight teeth. Tall, definitely over 6 feet, but, excited to meet me, and we shake hands, and he's just like, hi, thank you so much for helping us out. And I'm like, oh yeah, of course. So, we walk into the showroom, ballroom, and there's all these hutches, and there's lots of fine dining ware everywhere, amazing porcelain stuff, amazing ceramics, very interesting, very colorful, and, a lot of white too, because, fine china. But anyways, we're standing in the middle table, and there's all this dining ware that needs to be properly cataloged. So I have a pencil, and I have a sheet of paper on a clipboard, and I'm starting to mark certain information down about each of the pieces. And, I'm making small talk with the gentleman in the leather jacket, who seems to be another one of my bosses at this point. I don't know. I really didn't question it, so I didn't know. Anyways, as I'm doing that, lights flick off. And I was, immediately I was like, oh, that's weird. And a few seconds go by, the lights turn back on. Man in the leather jacket is like, oh, sorry about that. Yeah, that's been happening. We've been having troubles with the wiring up here. And I'm like, oh, okay, no worries, no problem. So I go back to, marking things down on the clipboard, and Again, we're making small talk. A few minutes go by, lights shut off again. And this time it was considerably longer. And this is when I started to get a bit nervous and weary, right? After a few minutes, lights flick back on. And all of a sudden, I'm looking at the table, and a lot of the fine china that I was cataloging is now off the table, gone. And I look to my right, and the hutch that was open is now closed, and a lot of the china that was on the table is now in the hutch. Yet I didn't hear anything. I didn't see anything, and definitely couldn't believe that in the amount of time when the lights had shut off, and I'm just standing there like, because, it's pitch black, I can't see anything, can't do anything. And while it's pitch black, I'm making small talk with the gentleman who's, like, again, apologizing about the wiring. But this is when I started to get really nervous, and I'm like, oh my God. Yeah, I don't know. I'm starting to get really, sir, I think a paranormal experience is going on. I'm getting really scared. Like, I don't feel comfortable. And then he's like, what? Paranormal? No, come on. No, don't be silly. So he opens up the hutch, and he starts taking the fine china out of the cabinet and placing it back on the table. And the whole time he's laughing at me, and he's like, no, don't. Come on. This type of stuff happens all the time. It's just the wiring. And I'm like, okay, all right. But that was, really weird. I go back to cataloging the fine china, even though, again, in my gut, I knew something was up. I couldn't quite pinpoint what it was. I'm cataloging the china for, a few more minutes, and then all of a sudden the lights shut off abruptly a third time. Boom. And at this point, I'm like, okay, what the fuck is going on? But immediately as they shut off, my heart drops through my stomach because I start hearing crazy noises like demonic gargling, gargoyle type, weird, horrific, paranormal, absolutely horrifying noises, right? I thought I was going to be picked up in midair and thrown around or cut up. I thought I was going to get brutalized or trafficked or, just killed. I had no idea what was going on because, again, the noises that I was hearing were demonic and horrifying. So I start screaming. The lights flick on again, and there I see this man who I thought was just my boss taking me through this procedure of cataloging inventory in a ballroom, and he's 30 feet away from me, and he's completely duct taped all over his body to this chair, and he's like, he's got duct tape over his mouth, and he's muffling like, help me. I start screaming, and I'm like, but I was also scared. I was like, shit, if I run towards him, I might be caught by whatever did that to him, and I had no idea what was going on. So I start screaming for my life. I run back towards the entrance of the ballroom where there's this heavy curtain that I didn't know was there before, like a really huge, heavy, dark maroon curtain. I get through the curtain, and then all of a sudden that flamboyant man from before rushes out, and he's like, wait, stop, no, it's all a prank, stop, it's a prank. You're on the Carbonaro Effect with Michael Carbonaro. And I just let out a huge sigh and gasp of relief. Because, again, I was screaming, and I'm not going to reenact the screaming because you can just imagine what a man like me screaming for his life looks and sounds like. But I was genuinely, seriously horrified and scared. Anyways, I'm calming down. Adrenaline is lowering. And all of a sudden, behind the scenes, workmen and crew and people with walkie-talkies and utility belts start coming out with huge smiles on their face. Everybody congratulating me like, oh my God, you were amazing. Your reactions were so over the top. Oh my gosh, we can't wait to use this footage. This is one of the craziest reactions we've had yet. And so they quickly pushed a contract in front of my face, had me sign it. I don't know if it was an NDA or a work release, or not a work release, a work for hire contract, or what type of contract it was. Again, I was under quite duress/stress. It was crazy. Very funny, by the way, because a lot of people that were coming out were just laughing their asses off because of how horrified I was. Apparently, with the pranks that they were pulling, with shutting off the lights and having it be pitch black, they didn't think people would react and think it was a demonic paranormal experience. I don't know what they thought, how people would react, but that's, I thought I was going to get killed. So, they give me $100 bill, they have me sign that contract, and then they whisk me out the back. And when I walk out of the back door, I'm like, oh my gosh, there's these huge, all white trucks that are open, and there's all these, anyways, it was a huge television set. Unwittingly to me, that I could not tell as I was being led in, but as soon as after the reaction happened and then everybody starts coming out, the entire crew, it was just, oh wow, like, duh, no wonder I'm on a literal Ashton Kutcher getting punked type of energy and vibes. Still to this day, so anyways, this episode never came out. My footage was never released. I hit up 2 of the producers multiple times over the course of the next 6 months to a year, trying to figure out if I could get a hold of this footage. I never saw the footage. My episode never came out. A college classmate of mine, her episode did come out, and that was at an art store where Michael Carbonaro was behind the cash register and just pulling little tricks. But mine ended up being at Broadway Antiques on the 2nd floor in a ballroom cataloging fine china, and the prank was shutting the lights off, moving the dining ware, and then duct taping Michael Carbonaro to a chair, all the while making insanely horrifying noises. And it's a really funny story. It was traumatizing, but it's also like something I can look back on and laugh. But at the end of the day, I just want to see the footage. I want to see what my reactions were. I want to post it. I want the world to see how Michael Carbonaro punked Wilhelm Duke back in 2016 at the Broadway Antique Shop up in Uptown Chicago. And yeah, that's pretty much it. But yeah, that's a true entertainment story. That's a true show business, entertainment, television story where I, of all people, was completely punked on the Carbonaro Effect by Michael Carbonaro. If you enjoyed this story, please give it a share. Please comment if you've been through anything similar. And how do you feel about these types of television shows and these types of concepts being executed, real time with the public? Oh, and also, by the way, yeah, the temp agency, that's crazy how they tricked me, because obviously that wasn't like a reoccurring shift. That was just one time because I was being used for television, for reality television, right? And then they also told me apparently the temp agency didn't know, but they were don't tell the temp agency what happened. And I'm like, oh, okay, I won't. And maybe the contract that I signed included that. Anyways, shout out all my Dukes and Duchesses. That's a true entertainment show business story. I'm Wilhelm Duke, and let's all rally to see the Carbonaro Effect footage where Wilhelm Duke acts completely fucking terrified, because I think that'd be hilarious. Peace.